What's up, guys? I'm going to talk about something a little bit different that I haven't really talked about before. And I have not put a whole lot of uh, thought into this, and I haven't really read about this to any really large extent, except to say peripherally what happens as a manifestation of every human that does something remarkable. So the topic at hand is creativity. What is creativity? And how do you define something that's creative, right? Well, in my opinion, we don't consider everyday life something that is creative. We don't call it a creative event, and that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it a creative event. And the reason we don't do that is because it's spontaneous to the point where our outwardly manifestation of what we are doing is not necessarily forethought through the means of creativity. Right? So, what does that mean? Well, that means if I go outside and somebody flips me the bird, right? And I say, "What's your problem?" That's not a creative event because I've done nothing to plan that set of circumstances. I've just simply reacted. So, naturally, a creative event is something that's planned. It's something that takes forethought. It's something that takes planning, and it's something that requires time to set up. It's not something that you just do at some point. And you can always say, what would happen if we said everything that we did was a creative event, right? What would happen? Well, then, what would happen is you would have to follow that thought all the way through. And if you were to do that, what you would find is that no more would be relevant to be a work of art as it would be to, drive your car to the nearest gas station, right? The two would be synonymous. And so the problem with that is that it gives little credence to the skill that is involved in the artistic expression of art, right? So art is not simply an artistic expression. It's not just an emotional outpouring of emotion, right? That's not all art is. In some loose classification, you can say that emotional representation is a artistic endeavor, but to say that any emotional expression is an artistic endeavor is a stretch, right? In my opinion, right? So why? Well, when you see a painter and you see him painting, like the happy little clouds guy, we're gonna put a happy little cloud here, that guy. He puts skill into his art. It's not something that he just, does one day and then never does again, and then that's the end of it. It's like, no, that's not an artistic expression. That's a impulsive act of lack of virtue, is what I would say. It's like an impulsive act that's not honoring anything. So naturally, when you think about what is creative, what is a creative event? A creative event is something that the artist needs to know what he is doing in the beforehand, to some extent, what it is he wants to accomplish. And if he really has no idea what he wants to accomplish, it means he's not thinking about what he wants to accomplish. So if he's thinking about what he wants to accomplish, and then he enacts that particular act of art or expression, then it may be deemed a work of art. All right. What else can I say? A really good book that if you want to read, and this is a fabulous book, and it talks about form and function and all this kind of stuff. It's called A Potter's Book by Bernard Leach, and it talks about pottery in the book. But I believe that the core principles of what it means to be an artist are pretty foundational if you can extract them from the main principles of the book. Yeah, so why we celebrate art, and I'm going to say we celebrate art because there are people that, in some regards, pay money for art, right? A musical artist, right? They gain revenue based on their music that they make, or a painter that paints in an attempt to make a living to support their family based on a skill that they have learned and devoted time to master a work of art that is a beautiful imagery, right? So, yeah, so humans are inherently artistic, right? We are very artistic. We do a lot of creative things. And some of the creative things that we do, we don't call them creative because they're a part of life. Right? Like if I paint my wall, right? It's like if I paint my wall white, right? Is that an artistic expression? Well, you might say yes, and some people might say no, but the point is that that's a skill that it's something that's a skill that requires me to know how to paint a wall. But that's not the defining characteristic of what is a creative event, because a creative event requires that you are pulling from something else besides a function to represent an emotion or state of being or emotional landscape or a depiction of some event or place or thing or something like that. Yeah, so the points here are not all expressions are art. Are not all expressions are a creative event. It requires forethought and skill to do a creative event. But not only skill is not the only thing involved with a work of art or a creative event, and there are as many different artistic expressions as there are people, right? So those would be the 5 points that I would want to make. Okay, thanks, bye.